Hello, everybody. Welcome to Divorce Done Well.
Episode 1.
Episode
Pilot
1.
episode.
Pilot episode. I am Stephanie Spett.
I'm Eric Spett.
Welcome. Saying hello to all 3 people that are watching. So here we are. Did you ever think we'd get here?
No. Unequivocal no.
Right. So we're going to just kind of talk about a little bit how we got here, how we came up with the idea, how we got here. We are primarily focusing on moving forward. We're not talking about anything from the past. We're just talking about how we got here. So I guess I could say I came up with the idea.
Yes, you definitely came up with the idea and had to sell it to me a little
Right.
bit.
I think when I told Eric that I might, we could try to figure out a way to monetize this, then he was all in. So, being the lawyer that he is. So I initially came up with the idea, but obviously he's on board or he wouldn't be here. And I would say that we came up with the idea because we unfortunately have had a lot of friends that have gone through divorce because, as we know, the statistics aren't great. But what we saw is that people were not doing divorce very well, that they were obviously angry and mean to each other, and angry and mean to their kids, and made their friends uncomfortable. And it just we watched people implode.
Also, we had more than one person say to us, you guys should do a podcast.
We did.
And that was
we
before
did
I
have
even knew
that.
what a podcast was.
Right.
I'm like, okay, we're going to do a podcast.
Right.
And yeah, and again, what Stephanie said is right. No judgment. That's not to say we do everything right or
We are not
have
experts.
done everything right. We're not experts in literally anything, but maybe we have something to add to the conversation that's helpful for somebody.
Yeah, I think, Eric, you're right. I think we just want to offer our perspective. We're not coming across as we are the know-it-alls and we know how to do everything. I mean, we struggle. We still get in our little tiffs, but we bounce back because I think there's a certain level of respect that we have for each other that maybe didn't necessarily exist when we were married, unfortunately, but we've been able to figure out a way to do it divorced. So It's kind of nice. My parents, Eric's parents have been fortunate enough to still be married. My parents were divorced. And I unfortunately watched what they did, and that impacted me. And our kids, I think that was one of the things that we were the most scared of, is how it would impact our kids. But what we've learned over the past almost 2 years is that if we can be good and respect each other, then they'll be good. And maybe that sounds obvious, like if you're nice, then they'll be nice. But again, it gets really hard with emotions and all of that. So our goal with this podcast is just kind of to show everybody our experiences and navigate what it's like to co-parent. Yes, there's a lovely picture of us. I posted this on Facebook, this picture of us from our son Eli's bar mitzvah. And I got a lot of feedback like, why don't you guys just get back together? You guys look so happy. I think this is a hard concept for people to understand because I think we're all conditioned that when people get divorced, whether that's what we read or in movies, you're supposed to hate each other. It's like War of the Roses or something like that. And I think even we probably made up our own stories in our head about what it was going to be like, which is scary. I mean, nobody likes to fight. I mean, there was a time where we chose to be married to each other and there were things that we loved about each other. But it doesn't have to be that way. I guess our experience, it doesn't have to be that way. We just want to offer another perspective. So that's kind of it. What do you have to add?
Oh, you're throwing it to me?
Yeah.
No, I think that's right. Divorce is hard no matter what. Even in the best circumstance, it's hard. I think that anybody who says they got through it completely unscathed is probably lying.
No, they are lying.
They're lying, because nobody gets through it completely unscathed. I think the goal is to get through it, is to sort of, mitigate whatever damage is going to be done.
Right.
And if you can do that, I think you can have, a successful post-marriage. You can have kids that are well adjusted to it, who understand that, mom and dad aren't married anymore, but they don't hate each other, and they can be in the same room together, and, that it doesn't have to be tension or anger. And at the end of the day, it's really about making sure your kids are okay. If you are married and you go through divorce and you have kids, this was one of the first things, I learned when we decide we're going to get divorced, is you make your kids the primary goal. You
Right.
make them the North Star. And every decision you make after that should be premised on whether or not that decision is good for the kids. And if you allow that to be your guiding principle, then I think you don't have to fight. You don't have to be angry, and you can make decisions that are in the best interest of your kids, and your ex-spouse will likely go along with it because they want the same thing for your kids.
Right. I think, Eric and I, that was one thing that we always did really well. There were some things maybe that we didn't do well as a married couple, but that's nice. but parenting our kids, we were always pretty much on the same page. So when things happen now, he's still my person that I call and I say, this happened. I have no idea what to do, because you still have like a partner. You know?
That person's going to be in your life forever.
Right.
So it can either be really sucky,
Right.
Or it can be fine.
Right.
It can be good. And that's really what this is about. You don't want to have a sucky 40 years trying to, because your kids are always going to be your kids, even when they're, 40 and hopefully not living in your house, but still needing
Right.
money or a career advice.
Not money.
Well, let's hope not. But I just didn't want to have a shitty 40 years
Right.
ahead of me. That's just not fun for anybody.
Right.
So that's part of it too.
That's a really good segue. So our kids, I guess I kind of wanted to share how our kids are doing today. They're still going to need therapy regardless. I mean, all kids,
everybody needs
everybody
therapy.
needs therapy. We'll have a therapist on probably at a later date. So everybody needs therapy, but we just want to mitigate the amount of therapy they need. And so I feel like the way we're handling this divorce, at least right now, is helping that. So I just wanted to share something from Eli's bar mitzvah, which was, 4 months
December.
ago. Yeah, this is a picture of all of us on the eve of Eli's bar mitzvah. So he wrote something in his bar mitzvah speech. I think it's gonna. Anyway, he shared something on his in his bar mitzvah speech that literally, Eric and I looked at each other during the service and we both just lost it. So what he said was, I'm just going to read a snippet. Obviously, I'm not going to read his entire speech. But he said, when my parents first told me that they were getting divorced, I thought my life was over. I thought my parents hated each other and I wouldn't ever get to see them at the same time again. At the time, I thought I could never forgive them. But clearly, I was wrong. As time passed, I realized that my parents were still friends and we were still a family. It just looked a little different. So that just kind of says it all. I don't know, something about kids.
Well, he's intuitive anyway.
Right.
But he was also the one who struggled with it the most.
Right.
Sadie was pretty fine with it.
Well, she just didn't express
She
it
didn't
in
express
the
it
same way.
in a. She
Yeah.
expressed. Eli was, he ran out of the house.
Right.
And was angry for a long time.
Said that, when he was going to come to my house, that all he needed was a wet blanket and a brick. And he didn't need a room or a bed, so he was clearly...
He was going to sleep on the floor
Yes.
outside with
With
a
a
wet blanket and
and
a
a
brick
brick.
for a pillow. Sadie, when we told her response was, "Oh, okay, can you take me to Target now so I can get nail polish?"
Right, and bedding.
And bedding. So she felt, at least she was also younger than him, but she seemed to handle it, fine at the time. Eli took him a while to come around, and what he wrote for his bar mitzvah speech was really, was really. We encouraged them to talk about it, but it's the first time he sort of expressed it in that way.
Right,
that
we
either
didn't
of
write
us had
that
heard
for
that.
him.
No,
we didn't write
it.
that, so that was pretty
That was pretty heady.
that's sort of a time where you're like, okay, maybe
Maybe we're doing something right.
we're not, totally screwing them up. So we wanted to share that.
That's just proof. That's just proof that we're doing something right. Like, you know what I mean? Like
one thing right.
one thing right, not
Right.
everything.
No,
no. Like I
right.
said at the beginning, we still screw up on most things, probably.
Jury's still out,
But
yeah.
jury's still out. But on that one thing, on how it's affecting the kids, I think we're doing it about as well as you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe that's just the story we're telling ourselves.
Whatever it
Anyway,
takes.
so it's interesting. Obviously, most of our friends that we've shared, we're doing this, and we hesitated saying we're doing this because this is our first one, and we've never been on TV. I mean, I showered today, did my hair and makeup. It's a big day. So we've gotten a lot of, positive feedback. It's going to be awesome. Family members have said, it's going to be awesome, but, they have to say that. But about a week ago, I posted, I sort of introduced the podcast and said, Eric and I are doing this. Tune in at noon on April 22nd. And then some really nice friends would share it on their Facebook, how everybody does. But it was very interesting. One of my friends shared the post saying, I have some really good friends, and they're doing this, and they're doing a great job. And then, some of the feedback we got was interesting. So, I've grayed out all parties here, but my friend posted it and shared, this is what they're doing, tune in. And then another individual wrote, April Fools. And then she wrote, happy to say no, they're totally serious. And then this individual's comments were, I know they are, I have lots of thoughts. And initially when I read that, I was like, what? How could you not like it? How could you not be on board? But, that's the way it works. Not everybody understands. Maybe people think we're pretending. Maybe people think this isn't really true. And again, everything is not rosy and perfect, and we have hiccups, and I drive you crazy.
Yes.
You definitely drive me crazy. But it was just interesting. It's like it makes people uncomfortable. That's what I've learned. When you get along with your spouse in a way that we do, and we're not the only ones, by the way. We have friends that, we're not, this isn't totally
In fact, I think
uncharted.
most people I know who are divorced get along with their spouse relatively well.
But the people that don't, it makes them very uncomfortable because, it's supposed to be in sort of a box. If you're divorced, you can get along, but you're certainly not spending holidays with them. You're certainly not, we're actually, I know this makes people very uncomfortable, but Eric and I are taking the kids to see Hamilton in 2 weeks in New York. We're staying in separate rooms. But it's very confusing. I think it makes people that we're potentially dating. Sometimes it makes them uncomfortable. In my case, it doesn't necessarily make them uncomfortable, but it just makes people uncomfortable because they can't wrap their head around how you would go and travel and spend a weekend with someone that you're choosing not to be married with.
But I think that's pretty normal. I think it's normal to find that weird.
Yeah, I guess.
This is not a normal thing.
Yeah,
and it
you're
was
right.
more than anything, this was born out of sort of necessity, because we both wanted to take the kids want to see Hamilton. We both wanted to go see it. So
Neither
we
of
looked into
us-
getting
right.
tickets here, and it was literally more expensive to see it in Dallas than it was in New York. So the idea came up, well, why don't we just take them to, and the kids love New York and
Right.
haven't been in a while. So the idea was, why don't we just go to New York and see it there? And yeah, I think it makes people uncomfortable, and it is weird. It is different. I mean,
But it's not weird for us, is the thing.
No, I don't.
Maybe it's weird for you.
It's a little. I mean, it's weird. It's a
Yeah.
little different. It is different.
Well, I guess my point is that
But let me finish.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
but it sort of dovetails with what you said before about making people uncomfortable. I think the concept of, like, I remember when we first got divorced, or when we were in the middle of it, people even who were married were sort of uncomfortable,
Right, 'cause they
because
think it's-
it shines a light
Yes.
on people and on their own situations, and
they
you
kind of
know,
think it's contagious. People think
people think
divorce-
it's contagious, and they're like, And they're like, oh, well, if they're getting divorced, if they're getting divorced, what does that say about
Right.
my marriage? And, maybe it's not as perfect as it shows on Facebook and, all that stuff. And so I think the whole concept of divorce for people who are still married and even people who are divorced is just an uncomfortable
Yes.
subject, no matter what stage you're in or where you are, unless you are blissfully happy with, everything in your life. I think it's a natural thing to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. I think that's also sort of our goal with this, though. It's like sort of taboo to talk about, divorce. It's like, if you
like-
have some disease where you have to whisper it. So I guess our goal is just putting it out there. And
Demystifying.
demystifying, being honest. We're certainly not encouraging people to get divorced. That is, if given the choice, you should stay married. We are promoters of being married. But again, like I said at the beginning, we're just offering a different perspective. So,
What else? What's next on the sheet?
I know I had to write things down to remember. I don't know. I think that might.
Is that it for
I
the
think
first?
that might bring us to a close. We
for
don't
the
want to
first
bore
pod?
everybody.
So one thing we learned is that you can send questions or comments on our Facebook feed or something.
We
You
might
ex-
have to-
you explain.
I'm not really sure about that. We're a
Oh.
little technologically challenged. I do know that it's live on our Facebook feed.
Oh yeah, and I'm watching it
And Eric
literally
is
on
watching
the Facebook
it.
feed.
That's got to be freaky.
That's really
okay,
weird.
so a couple things. Like us on Divorce. Oh, good. Now he's turning it on. Divorce Done. like our page, Divorce Done Well on Facebook and on Instagram. If you have questions or if you want to be a guest, we are going to have some guests. We're still sort of planning it out. But if you want to be a guest or you have something you want to share, please email us at divorcedonewell@gmail.com and we will respond. Also, if you have any questions or comments, positive or constructive, we are open to them.
Or if you don't want to email to the Divorce Done Well website, you can email either of us separately.
Yes, he's espet
At
at gmail.com and I'm spet.stephanie.
Ziggy, can you pull those
Like-
those
yeah.
emails up?
And
So-
I'm spet.stephanie@gmail.com. Yep, that's me. So you can do that.
And we really do want to hear from you because, like we said, this one probably sucked. Well, it probably sucked a little bit. Ziggy says they all suck at the beginning anyway.
Right.
So
Ziggy's our awesome engineer that has gotten us to this point, and we love him and are grateful.
yeah, but send us questions, comments, ideas, things you want to hear about because we are not. Like
If you think
Sarah
I
said-
should wear my hair differently,
Yeah. Should I change glasses? Should I?
I like those.
Really?
Anyway, okay, so thank you for tuning in. Hopefully, we didn't put you to sleep or make you spit your lunch out. And we will see you this time next week.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.